Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to another episode of Next Step Espresso, your daily shot of fitness. I am your host, as always, Johnny Landals from Next Step Nutrition, bringing you the podcast that helps you overcome industry confusion and get results for good. Today, we're on episode 481. We've been talking all this week about disordered eating, and today we finish with the 4 Fs, which we spoke about the other day, which correspond to focus, fight, flee, and freeze, right? All animals have these 4 key responses to any kind of threat and any kind of stress. And as we've looked at this week, disordered eating, strict eating, restriction, calories, being really hyper exercising, all those things are responses basically to threats or stressful situations. Now, I do want to make a point on this show that I am all for things like calorie counting and having a routine when done in the right manner, and using food journals and things like that when done intentionally and done in a flexible sense and done as a state of awareness and intentional change coming from a healthy relationship with food. Something I'm going to talk about with Eric Helms in a coming Flat White Chronicles. Do keep your eye out for that, but we do need to be aware of when these things make a turn and when they can become too restrictive, too closed-minded, and when we can then start to basically not see results because of our mindset taking that turn. So if we can be aware of these 4 Fs, then we can better ready our mind for intentional dieting strategies without affecting our relationship with food and without falling into the patterns of disordered eating. But the first F stands for focusing. This is where we have a heightened sense of awareness or a heightened sense of alert. And this is where it's a case of we're really focused on the food in practice. What is that? Should I eat it? Should I not eat it? How many calories is in it? If I eat it, then do I need to do something to compensate? And you need to be really aware of your body language here. You might have a tense posture. You might be a bit edgy, maybe a bit breathless. And usually you've got an intent gaze as well. Fighting is the second F, and this is where we rebel against perceived deprivation. So this is where dieting can take a turn for the worse if we feel like we are deprived, or if we feel like we are restricted, or if we feel like we're following too many rules. This is when we rebel against that restriction, and this is, the fuck it response, the sabotage mode, the bratty toddler, like, oh, well, screw it, I'm going to eat this instead, or screw it, I've already messed up my diet, therefore I'm going to keep going. This is the sabotage mindset that we want to avoid at all costs. You then have fleeing, which is where we are running away from our problems by either eating or not eating. That example of the ice cream when you have a breakup, or, man, what a day, I need to crack open a beer and order a pizza. And this is when we flee from our discomfort rather than facing it head on. And then we've got freezing, right? This is the last resort in the threat response, last resort in the stress response. This might be when you completely lose control over food, or it might be when you completely give up on your weight loss journey or your fitness journey, and you just space out, and you might just stop trying for a good while because it's just the last step in the process. And so now you might be thinking, right, well, how can we handle these events? Now, the thing is with these 4 Fs is that as long as we're really, really conscious about disordered eating and mindful about our relationship with food, we can start to notice these responses in ourselves. As I said, there's a difference between intentionally dieting and making a choice for you to drop fat and create a caloric deficit and improve your eating habits for the better. And you can do that without feeling restricted, as well, as long as you have that mindset around including the foods that you enjoy, making decisions that you are happy with making, and doing it in a step-by-step process for a given result, rather than following a really strict fad diet, or following a really strict meal plan, or another routine that just has a lot of rigidity around it, even if that is counting calories. You can count calories with a much more flexible mindset in terms of the number that you're aiming for, the flexibility in the number of the week, and all of those things, and have a nice breezy attitude on it rather than feeling restricted by it. But if you do feel restricted by it, then it's not the right approach for you. So I'm not saying that approach will always cause these mindsets, but what I am saying is that it might not be right for you. And in terms of handling these things long term, the best that we can be aware of it using things like food journals, emotional journals, noticing and naming, and behavior naming, and then we'll get a real great handle on our patterns, and we'll be better able to combat these things in the future. And of course, that's where coaching and guidance can help as well, so that you have someone to help talk you through these situations and positions and help you find the approach that works for you. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed another episode of Next Step Espresso. I hope you've enjoyed this series of disordered eating. Next week, we're going to look a little bit more at food journals and using them differently than just tracking numbers, and how we can use them for more behaviors and habits as well. Tomorrow, I talk to Andrew Coates from Andrew Coates Fitness about gyms, mental health, and lifelong fitness. So I hope that you can join us for that. For now, have a great Thursday, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Flat White Chronicles.